He's gone quiet.
In answer to your question, Peter, I thought it was Face Tube, according to Peter Kay's nan.
I was listening to an audiobook earlier on. I worked for Social Security for 45 years. Don't make me a bad person, but I'm part of the way there. And I never knew where the word dole came from until I was listening to Mary Beard earlier on today. And many of you may know, but I didn't. And it came from 2nd century Rome, where the poor were doled out bread or wheat as a monthly ration, either subsidised or free, just to keep the mob happy. So that's the origin of the word dole, or what we call is on the dole.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
See that?
They called it bread and circuses. That's what
They did.
the Roman authorities give it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how to keep the people happy, bread and circuses.
Yeah. A bit of entertainment and a bit of food.
Yeah. And for centuries, bread was the basis of poor law relief because it was the staple for everyone, but poor people in particular. So the price of bread dictated the price of relief, or how much people were paid.
And did the term doling out come from dough, as in bread?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes.
Well, that's today's lesson.
Switched on to a new channel now, aren't we?
Yes.
Right. Okay. Let me just check with as Lol. Where are you, Lol?
I'm here, next to you.
Are you
Not
not,
his
you're not on
lot.
my screen? Right. Had you finished?
Yeah, Lol, look out of your window. I've got a sniper posted there.
I believe you, told you.
I wish you United and Wednesday people would stop arguing. I mean, you never hear Ian and I, going on about Everton, mainly because they're not worth mentioning.
Who are they? Who are they?
They are this season.
So, had you done then?
We're just going to tell you a couple of minutes about Thornton's chocolates.
Toffees.
Only take a minute, Keith, if you're
Go
interested.
on then.
They were founded 110 years ago in Sheffield. They had a factory
Didn't
in
know
Archie
that.
Road in Millhouses. In 2011, they had 364 stores nationwide. In 2015, Italian giant Ferrero bought the company for £112 million, but couldn't turn the fortunes around. And the shops slowly dwindled till there were only 61 left. They've got a factory, which currently is in Alfreton, Derbyshire, which is having a £45 million upgrade, and the shops are going to be shut as from now. End of story.
Yeah.
It's a bit like Donald Trump failing with casinos. Anybody failing with chocolate? How can you fail with chocolate?
Easter and Christmas cancelled. That doesn't help.
No.
We went to Australia once to see our son who lives there, and we flew into Sydney and went to stash our luggage because we were going to fly on the interstate flight later. And the guy said, "Where are you from?" And we said, "Sheffield." And he said, "Oh, Thornton's." And we said, "What?" And he said, "Oh, yeah, Laugh Thornton's." And we actually had to open our case and let him hand round the Thornton's toffees we brought for our son. Amazing.
Can any? Obviously, the first factory was in Sheffield, and then where? Does anybody know where they
Archie
moved?
Road.
Archie Road.
Yeah.
Yeah, but where did they move the factory to?
Alfreton.
Are you sure?
It's just off the A38.
I thought it was Mansfield, but out to your
It's
great
Alfreton at the
knowledge.
moment then, Keith.
No,
It might
it's
be
just
somewhere
off
then.
the A38.
Fake news. Fake news.
Fake news. Right.
So,
Fake news.
genuine news.
Who
Friend of mine
supplied
used
Do you think they'll have some
friend of
going cheap to sell off?
when
At Easter.
Hopefully.
when they moved to their new factory, they started to make their own chocolate. Who supplied the chocolate prior to the move?
Cadbury's?
Nestle.
Cadbury's, correct.
Really?
No
Yeah,
wonder it's so good.
yeah. So, right, is that it then, Lol?
Yeah, that's
We
it.
don't-
Thank you very much.
Right.
I've not upset you too much today, have I?
Yeah.
Thank you, Lol.
Thank you.
You never upset us. So we'll move swiftly
We
on.
don't shoot the messenger, lol.
You love me really, John.
I do, actually. I do.
Right,
But
we're
let's
going to
not go
move
into that in
swift. We're
public.
going to move swiftly on to Chris, who's got he's got a small piece.
Has he?
Really?
Oh, really?
Oh,
No need to get thirsty. Swiftly
I
on
think that's
from
what
John and
known as
Noel
a Freudian
and their
slip.
burgeoning relationship onto his small piece. Put it down.
you upset him
Have a
now,
way
Keith.
with words.
That I can officially state that is fake news.
Oh,
I'm going to have to edit
you won't
this
see
one.
Chris in the showers anymore.
About a famous event in Derek Randall's cricketing history. And we've
Right.
got somebody called Monica coming on. Who's Monica?
Monica will be Jonathan Strange.
Okay, this guy's one of Chris's friends.
Monica, hi.
Hi, darling.
Hi, darling.
Hi.
Morning, Chris.
He's going to come in. He couldn't get in, so I've got him
No
in for
problem.
you.
All right. Hello, Jonathan.
Morning, everybody.
Oh,
Morning,
hello.
Jonathan.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
You're welcome.
Oh,
You're
we're
very
just
welcome.
about to start
We
off.
didn't know we had.
There's a
With
£10
Chris's-
entry fee.
We're just about to start off with Chris's small piece.
Excellent. Very small, I'm sure. Yes.
Thank you.
Don't like to hear about people's small pieces.
Thanks for your support. I no longer have any good feelings towards Coventry City as far as you're concerned. You've ruined that relationship.
Right,
Is Mr.
go on
Norell
then, Chris.
coming on?
How are you doing? How many of you are there on the meeting?
19.
19.
Fantastic. Fantastic. And what have you been talking about so far?
Utter rubbish.
Awesome chocolate.
Me?
Fountains of chocolate.
Hey, Chris, you've done your hair differently since I last saw you.
Yeah, it's about 2 foot longer than when I last saw it. It's
It's
called
too, but it's just the strands looking over the top.
it's called lockdown. It's called lockdown, Jonathan.
Lockdown locks.
He's only got a small piece.
Yeah. Can I get? Shall I start or not?
Yes.
Go on.
If you must, yes.
Okay, let's go. Right. I'm taking you guys back to 1977.
Ooh,
Um, In the charts was ELO with Mr. Blue Sky, the Eagles with Hotel California, ABBA, Bee Gees, Billy Joel, Queen, Fleetwood Mac. Those are the sort of times a lot of us enjoyed. Well, 44 years ago this week was one of the greatest test matches by wide comment from cricket people, probably in one of the greatest matches ever played between England and Australia. And it was the centenary of cricket between the two nations. And it was staged at the MCG in Melbourne in March of 44 years ago. It was actually the 800th test match ever played. And behind me, if I just tilt my screen, you'll see the official poster, Benston Hedges poster. I hope you can pick it out. That is of the match. It's got all the scores. It's got individual pictures of each Aussie and Englishman, and it's signed by the man of the match. But more of that in a minute.
Chris,
Yes.
you live in Lords.
No, but I know a man who is a member of Lords, and he's just joined us.
Oh,
Yes,
right.
indeed. Yes,
Wow.
indeed.
Now, when I pop my clogs, I'll donate to Lords. Right.
That's right.
Right. This is the English 11. I hope you can see this. That's the English team on the field at the MCG before the start of the game. Derek Randall, who I'm going to talk to you about, is extreme right to me, is it? Yeah, lefty. Anyway, there he is. And that sheet is a very famous sheet because it's signed by all of the England players who participated. Sorry, I've just dropped something. I can't take you to the match, unfortunately, but I'll share with you a copy of one of the match day tickets for the last day of the game held 44 years ago. Tomorrow, the 17th of March, guys, was the 5th and final day of this momentous game. Some would say epic game. It was played out in front of packed crowds on all of 5 days, and it was attended by every living Australian and England test player who could accept an invitation and was well enough to travel by Qantas from this country. All the Aussie famous players were also flown into Melbourne to be at the ceremonies and be at the dinners that happened. There were 218 famous former players and captains. The Cricketer magazine, if you can see that, the Cricketer magazine featured just a few of them as they got off the long flight. If I said to you that that included Laker and Peter May, Bill Vose, Tom Graveney, obviously Boycott, Hutton, Edridge, Compton, Truman, Tyson, Bradman, Larwood, the list just goes on and on. And it was a unique event. I don't know how they organised it. It took 4 years to organise this game. The game was also attended by royalty. It was part cricket match, part pageant. And our Queen and Prince Philip attended this match on the final day as part of her Jubilee tour of the Commonwealth. And therefore it had a very big royal seal of approval. Tomorrow, 44 years ago, was the culmination of an innings that actually won the hearts and admiration of both sets of cricket fans, which is not easy to do, particularly if you're in Australia. And it made his name in the game and in the history of the game, and that's Derek Randall of Retford, of Notts and England. And he completed his maiden test century in what was the 225th game between England and Australia, the greatest rivals in the game. He finally scored 174 in an innings spread over today, 44 years ago, and into tomorrow, 44 years ago. He hit 21 fours, and in doing so, he took on the most feared fast bowler in the world at that time, which was Dennis Lillee. I've previously related how my dad might listened in his car to his radio overnight to hear how his protege was doing and how he became a national hero. And I've also said to you that I stayed up far too late and nearly missed an exam the following day. There have been many books and articles written about Derek and about this match. They're still being written. And several of the pictures that appear in those publications were actually photographs that were taken by the press and sent to my dad as Derek's confidant and manager at the time. And so for the first time, I will show you a few of those photographs. Now, some of them, as you say, will have seen because they've been used in publications like Innings of My Life. It's an amazing book, Innings of a Lifetime, it should say. They're in there. They're also in Cricket's Greatest Characters, and on we go. I'll show you them and I hope you find them interesting. These are my personal recollections that I can remember about the game. It is aided and abetted, of course, by being able to look at the DVD, which is always helpful. So the 7 minutes are on YouTube and there's about an hour and a half on DVD. The interesting thing is that when the DVD came out, Derek's innings had become so powerful in its memory that his photographs are the ones included on the DVD. England arrived direct from India from a very successful tour under Tony Gregg's leadership. They'd won the first 3 tests against India, and they arrived after about 5 months of travelling and playing to play a one-off game, the Centenary Test. This was Derrick's first overseas tour. He'd never played, obviously, in Australia before. And as far as the public and the Aussie press were concerned, he was completely unknown. So we get to day 1 of this incredible game, which started on the 12th of March, 44 years ago. And changes to the England side, a fear of batting collapse against Lillee in particular, meant Derrick was in the team and going in number 3. On the first morning, he happened to go in with 61,500 people watching the game. Now, it didn't go to plan for Australia because they were all out for 138. And that included McCosker having his jaw broken by Bob Willis. He lost his wicket in the process and had to be taken off. There are no helmets, of course, in 1977. And you've got people bowling at 90 plus miles an hour. However, England went in, and guess what? They got 95. All out 95. Lillee got his best figures up to that time, 6 for 26. And when Derrick went in, he obviously bounced him and tried to rough him up. And here's one of the photographs that you may have seen. This is Derrick. He's just been bounced by Dennis Lillee, and he takes his cap off and he doffed it to Dennis Lillee in sort of, nobody knows. It was either a nervous twitch or he was saying, well bowled. Nobody knows, but that was typically Derrick.
Absolutely.
It didn't work for Derrick because the next ball he was out for 4. And England were all out 95. Now, the officials of the game who've spent 4 years organising it, they're thinking, oh, God, this game is not even going to get to the 4th day, and we've got the Queen coming on the 5th day. It was pretty knife-edge stuff. Anyway, they need to worry, but by the end of the 4th day, Australia were 463 ahead. This was a near impossible ask to reach a target like that. Never been done before in the history of cricket. It was an impossible target. A very telling factor in that target was the fact that McCosker, with a broken jaw, did come back in the second innings, and he helped Rod Marsh go to his 100. Rod went to 110 not out, stretched the lead. McCosker got 25 with a broken jaw. Yeah. And that partnership of 54, as you'll hear in a minute, became massively significant. It's a fact often lost on people when they look at the Centenary Test. It was critical. On day 4, 60-odd thousand there again, Derrick went in and he was in great partnerships, firstly with Mike Brearley, who got 42, and then Dennis Amiss. And he hit some incredible shots, drives, hooks, cuts. And by the end of the 4th day, which is today, 44 years ago, he was 87 not out. And England only needed 272 to win on the final day, tomorrow, 44 years ago. So we now get to the 5th day. You can imagine the responsibility on this young man's shoulders. He's 26, he's on 87, he's been fretting in the hotel all night. And eventually he cut Dennis Lillee for 4. Then he took a single off him and he went to his maiden Test match century. It took him 233 minutes and he faced 173 balls. He evaded during that century a barrage of bouncers and all sorts of stuff. A great banter between him and Dennis Lillee. This is one of the pictures my dad was sent of Derrick dumped on his backside. You can see that. Am I showing that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can still see that Derek's got his eyes on what's happening, but he was dumped on his backside by Dennis. And then, in a famous incident, he tried to weave out of the way of a Dennis Lilly bouncer. Can you see that?
Yeah.
And overbalanced, did a somersault. This is in front of 61,000, and ended up sort of in that position. This is these are famous photographs, but they all came to my dad initially. And I just want to read you very quickly a statement or a comment by Dennis Amiss, who was the England batsman at the other end during this time. He said his knock in the Ashes centenary match was one of the best test match innings I've ever seen. I managed to stay with him for some time, so I had a marvellous front row seat. When he'd got 70 or 80, he was hit by Dennis Lilly on the head as he was trying to get out the way. It's that photograph. We all went down the wicket and Dennis Lilly said to Derek, "Are you all right?" And Derek came back with the comment, "Well bowled, Mr. Lilly. What a good ball that was." The Australians never understood Derek Randall. And
Who did?
Dennis's reply, according to Dennis Amiss, who was there, was, "Give me the ball and I'll hit him on the other side as well." Dennis Amiss, whose book's just come out, said in his book, "It was one of the sternest tests of technique and temperament I have ever faced." And that's quite something from a man who played for England for over 10 years. Anyway, once the partnership had got to 100 with Dennis Amiss, England had got to 267 for 2. So with Derek on 129, they counter-attacked. And when Dennis was out for 64, the partnership between the two guys was 166 for the third wicket, and England were definitely outsiders still, but they were definitely in for the win. Derek was joined by Tony Greig, who got 41 and was given out on 161, but Rod Marsh, who caught a ball off his captain, Greg Chappell, indicated he hadn't caught it cleanly, and they recalled Derek Randall to the crease.
Wow.
And
Those were the days.
those were the days.
Yeah.
The Australian captain, Chappell, received the most unstinting and deserved praise from everyone who witnessed this, including Tony Greig. It was an amazing piece of sportsmanship because at this moment they're not definitely going to win. And wasn't that a brilliant piece of sport? Well, as they neared tea, England only needed 117 to pull off this amazing win. But after 448 minutes, Derek was out, and he was out to the leg spinner, Kerry O'Keefe. Derek had played some outstanding shots. This is a very famous picture of Derek hooking Dennis Lilly, and to the cricket followers, hooking Dennis Lilly after you've been hit on the head, etc., with no helmet. That was pretty special. This is the moment that Derek was out. It's a famous photograph again. This particular photograph is, let me show it. This particular photograph is autographed by Rod Marsh, the wicketkeeper, and he's caught brilliantly at forward short leg by Cozier. This was, at the time when Derek did this, the second highest score by anyone making their debut in an England-Australia test. The best was done in 1903. Derek's innings had transformed the centenary test from a possible non-event into a tense clash of skill and character. And he left the field unaware of the, I would use the word tumultuous, I can't say it properly, but tumultuous applause from the whole ground. And possibly confused by all of this, and Derek being Derek, he actually went out the wrong gate, and he ended up going up a steep slope of steps to the royal box, where then he recovered himself apparently, and he gave a bow to the Queen, and then he jumped over into the public seats and got to the dressing rooms.
Dear God.
At the tea interval, England needed 109 to win. The two teams were presented to Her Majesty, and I've got a rare picture here. I've not seen this published many places. This is a picture of Derek actually being presented to Her Majesty in front of the pavilion.
Take it out a bit. Take it towards
Do that,
yourself
yes.
a bit. All right, that's it.
Okay.
That's
So
it.
I haven't seen that picture reproduced in many publications, and I've never seen this one. This is a picture sent to my dad, and she also made a point of speaking to Rick McCosker, and Rick McCosker is almost unrecognizable because he's covered in bandages to keep his jaw from from further trouble. And the Queen made a special point of speaking to Rick McCosker. You can see now why that partnership is so critical. We need 100 to win, and he and Rod Marsh put 50 on when they were batting. England went in again. They were eventually bowled out for 417, which was then the highest score in a fourth innings of any match between England and Australia. Defeat was, I think you could describe it as glorious, because they never gave up the run chase. And incredibly, they lost this match by 45, which was exactly the same number of runs that they lost by in the very first Test match in 1877 at the MCG. It's an extraordinary coincidence.
Yeah. Yes, I remember that.
In wrapping up, Keith, I just want to say that Derek was judged man of the match. This is a picture of Derek. Again, you can see the joy and the humour and everything he brought to cricket. That was remarkable in that you don't win man of the match awards in a game like this when you're on the losing side. It was a remarkable achievement to win something when you've lost.
Yeah.
Lilly finished with figures of 11 for 165. He bowled 34 overs, mainly at Derek, in the second innings. It's a colossal feat of energy and reserves, and it made him certainly enter the list of, I was going to say yes, pretty exhausted. He was carried off by his teammates because I don't think he could move. One critic described the contest between Randall and Dennis Lilly as possibly the longest, most fiercest duel in Test match history. At the end of the game, Derek went onto the rostrum to get his award. He was totally unprepared, as Derek would be. He accepted his award, which is the Benson & Hedges gold medallion and $1,500. He accepted the award by saying he thanked the crowd for coming and Dennis Lilly for the bump on his head. If it had hit me anywhere else, it might have hurt.
Yeah.
I finished with Dennis Amiss. Dennis Amiss was with him for 240 minutes in that partnership. He stated it's one of the finest knocks I have ever witnessed against Dennis Lilly at his best. It must go down as one of the greatest innings of all time. When Derek got home, he was got home later that month. He was given a civic reception in his hometown of Retford, which I was at. And pardon? You were there, Keith. Yeah, you'd be there, Keith, of course. And it was a horrible day, I remember, freezing cold, raining, but thousands of people out. And my dad drove Derek through the streets of Retford to the town hall, where he was given a civic reception. And I actually don't know how I did this, but in my dad's belongings, I came across something which my dad had kept. And that's the newspaper, the local newspaper from 1977, which obviously was headlined with everything to do with Derek. And that's a treasured possession. It's only an old newspaper, but that's just amazing. The bat that Derek did it with is now in the pavilion at Trent Bridge. It was originally given to John Paul Getty by Derek by way of thanking John Paul Getty for all his support and sponsorship. And when Getty passed away, the estate redonated the bat to Trent Bridge, so it's back where it should be. It's at Trent Bridge. Have I got 2 minutes, Keith? Have I got 1 minute?
Yeah.
Quick. There were 4 records broken in that game that I can find. Rod Marsh was the first wicket keeper Australia to score 100 in Test match cricket against England. That's quite something. Rod Marsh broke another record because during the game he claimed his 188th dismissal, which broke the Australian record, and therefore he was very much a candidate for man of the match. Alan Knott, the great Alan Knott, who kept wicket in that game, claimed his 85th dismissal, which is an English record. And Derek Underwood, when he got Chappell out, he went in the first innings. He went to his 250th Test match wicket. After all of this, Packer happened, because that had all been bumbling around in the background. So World Series cricket was about to be launched and Test match cricket changed forever. I said a few minutes ago that this game is talked about, written about a lot still. Well, I went to an event in 2017 with Derek Randall as the guest speaker, and it was packed. And at the end of the programme, that item I showed you behind me, that poster, a complete stranger who owned that came up to myself and my dad, and he gave it us. That's why I've got it. He said, he said, I've nowhere to put this. He said, but I know, I've asked, and I know that what part your dad played, and so I'd like you to have it. And that's why I've got it. That's why I've got it. And so that's my tale of the centenary test, and it finished tomorrow in Melbourne 44 years ago. Thanks, guys.
Oh, brilliant.
Very good.
Excellent.
Can I just chip in? Because I got to know Derek quite well through being Benson Hedges representative at Trent Bridge. And he'd broken a finger before one of our games, so he wasn't playing. But the game was at Gloucester, and Derek drove myself and David Bloke on the ground staff down all the way to Gloucester with his hands over the steering wheel, picking at the bloody plaster that was on his broken finger. But he put us a question. What sport, 4 letters, begins with a T? Anybody?
Polo.
No.
And he wouldn't give us the answer for hours on the way back. We stopped at a Bernie Inn somewhere and had a bite. The answer, gentlemen, is golf.
Oh.
All right.
I guarantee that if you ask people that, it'll take a long time for anyone to come up with an answer.
Are you sure that was Derek in the car? Because that's a very complex joke.
Peter,
I'll give him the benefit of the doubt.
I actually worked with him on the year after his second testimonial benefit. Him and myself and another guy who had been his chairman for his benefit kept doing these events like Ascot and test matches and taking people to it, and well, actually made some money on it. I think I made £100 on my £1,000 outlay.
Yeah.
Peter, sorry. Peter, can you tell me what happened to the Benson and Hedges trophy?
No, I've no idea.
No, my reason for asking is I once held it.
Oh, right.
Trophy, yeah.
Yeah, I have, yeah.
Yeah.
I held it.
Is that from
No.
LDI?
Your DNA is mingled on the trophy.
Right then. So thank you again, and thanks, Peter.
Yeah, fabulous.
When I sent out the second email, mentioned about films, and I put 2 questions in the film When Saturday Comes. Who was the England international that featured in it, and what was the name of United's manager in the film?
It's Tony Curry.
Tony Curry is the first, yes. Ooh, silence.
Never seen the film.
He was Scottish.
He was Scottish, yes, and he had a Scottish sounding name, but the name was more familiar for a man in black.
Cash. Donny Cash.
No,
Orbison.
Mac Cash.
no, for a man in black.
This is your storyteller, the
Well,
man in
the
Referee.
A referee. And the referee had become a bit of a legend at Bramall Lane, a very revered person.
McCabe.
George McCabe.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, quite right, Keith. Yeah, that's right.
So anyway, that's that. I'm afraid we're down to 1 minute 52, so we'll have to go to the films stuff next week. I'm sorry.
Well, can I just preview it then, please, Keith?
Yeah.
Ian?
Just a quick one before you go. I know you write notes, Chris, for your presentation. If you've got them for this one, wing it, because I can put it on the website. I found the clip, the 7-minute clip you're talking about, the centenary match.
All right. Okay.
Thank you.
No problem.
Yes, John.
No, just a bit of a preview. I mean, Chris and myself were exchanging emails during this past week and talking about how it might be a good idea. Chris proposed this to talk about film involving sports, films that were our favourite films or things that we remembered from our past. So each of us who wants to, on an ongoing basis, can talk about the film, what it meant to them, and the particular sport and the subject of the film. So I was going to do one this week with Chris's support, and maybe I can do that next week.
Yeah.
But so if you could get your thinking caps on, what sports film has meant something to you, and talk about the film and the actual sportsman as well.
Yeah. Right. Okay, chaps.
Thanks, Keith.
Thank you,
Chris.
Thanks, Chris. Fabulous, Chris.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Thank you.
Jonathan, I'll send you the link each week.
Bless you. Thank you very, very much. I greatly enjoyed it. And bravo, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Good to meet you. Yeah.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye. Thank you.